There's always that story. It's always the story in the back of your head. Well, yeah, maybe if I get lucky, I'll get the job. Or maybe if nobody else applied for it, I'll get the job. That became the internal dialogue for a long time. And I think that's where the lack of self-belief comes in. Now, I think one of the reasons I have more self-belief is just because I have more proof. That's all it is.
It's just an inaccurate statement. You're not going to be faster than Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive. And thinking that you can and investing your decades into that endeavor is actually detrimental, because what could you have done with that time that actually was accurate and tangible in the world?
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1769, you'll never get positive results with a negative mindset. That right there is bumper sticker self-improvement. And you've been hearing me talk about that very often recently, but I have a story, and obviously we will dive deeper into it because that is what we do here. So I have a TikTok. Not because I want one, but I know it's one way to grow impact and grow the business, and everybody's on it, and everybody's telling... My screen just moved. And everybody's telling everybody they got to be on it. So, okay, we'll give it a shot. We're creating a lot of content. Let's throw it up on TikTok. Well, we did an episode recently where we were talking about, I think it was the best advice and the worst advice we'd ever gotten or something like that. And I was talking about how one of the quotes that really has helped me understand life at a deeper level is many of us think we're going to be stuck where we are today forever, and we assume that where somebody is today is where they've been forever. Something along those lines. And that ended up being a teaser clip that went on TikTok. And obviously the thought behind that clip is, if you feel like where you are today is where you're going to be stuck forever, you're not going to invest in your future. And if you feel like someone has been where they are today forever, you're going to lose sight of all the amazing, challenging, hard work that went into them achieving that result. And somebody commented and they said, well, that's the way it is. It is the fact that where you are today is where you're most likely going to end up being stuck. I've worked at a job with somebody who worked there for 15 years longer than I did, and they were barely making any more money than I was. And I commented back, I said, I'm not trying to be rude or I don't remember what it was. It was pretty much, I'm not trying to be a butthead. But I used to think that way too. And it's taken years and years and years of hard work, but I don't think that way anymore. Just kind of as like a gentle rebuttal of what we're talking about today, I'm willing to bet that that person is most likely going to end up feeling more stuck than the average person. Not because they're not intelligent, not because they don't have work ethic. A lot of it's going to, and I'm not saying they do have intelligence or work ethic, I don't know them, but that mindset is very, very, very limiting. We've all met someone who says, well, that'll never work. That could never work. Well, why are you wasting your time doing that? Well, it's not worth me asking that person out. It's not worth me applying for that job. Those people, unfortunately, most likely aren't going to make it very far because it's a mindset. Alan and I, in the very beginning of this, we used to talk about how I think I was a realist. I don't think I was a pessimist. I think I was a realist more than anything. And Alan was an extreme optimist. And there was always that thought of Alan's going to win more than I will because he's going to take more shots than I do. He's also going to lose more than I do, but in the grand scheme of things, he's going to win more than I do. And I think if I was a pessimist, I don't really think I was. I really think I was a realist. I do. Now more than ever, I think I was a realist based on some data that we have now that we didn't before. But
you were certainly more accurate than I thought.
I was more accurate in some things, right? I was less accurate in other things than I thought. But
definitely,
that's really the thought for this episode. I know it seems overly simplistic, but if you have you ever seen the movie The Kingsman?
No.
I think it's Kingsman. It's a movie about spies. It's really cool. It's funny. It's new age. It's really cool. It's a really good movie. But there's this scene where they're training these spies, and they're all pretty young, so they're training them up. And one of the training exercises, they're in this bath, and it just starts filling with water, and it floods. It floods to the very top, and they have to find their way out. And everybody's doing something different, trying to figure out the way out. And I think eventually no, they didn't find out. I think the main character breaks the glass and they get sucked into another room and they survive. But evidently, you can stick a hose up through the toilet and you can breathe that way. I'm not into trying that. That's not the point of the story. But imagine if you were in that scenario. You would try every single option to get out of that room. Mm-hmm. You would exhaust every single option. But if you were the type of person in that room who the second it started filling up with water, you said, shit, this is it. This is the end. You would just sit there like the couple in the Titanic who just went to bed and
that was so cute.
Most likely perished. They most likely perished. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that they didn't come out of that bed. Where Jack and Rose fought and fought and fought and fought and fought. Now, spoiler alert, unfortunately, Jack didn't make it. Couldn't get on the door. Come on, man, what are we doing? Rose made it. But just as a kind of funny, lighthearted example, those are mindsets. They're just different mindsets. And mindset is something we talked about recently when we talked about the 2 most powerful books, but I want to do another episode on it because I think it's really telling and sad that this person most likely is going to create the life that they're imagining because of their mindset. I think that sometimes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, where if you think something is going to happen and that's your limiting belief, unfortunately that thing ends up happening.
Yeah. 7 years ago, Kevin and I would debate all the time about who would be successful and what mindset to adopt. And the Hyper-Conscious podcast, change the way you think, change the way you act, change the way you live. And we would mastermind, and we spent every Father's Day together, and we talked a lot more than we walked back then. Mm-hmm. No, so I think we were walking our talk for the place of the business we were in, genuinely. But we did a lot of learning and masterminding and talking and deep conversations about mindset. It was character over everything back then. It was self-awareness over everything. And this was before the business grew, and now a lot more of our focal point. It's very different. Yeah. Kev, before I got in the studio today, he was playing a song by The Outfield. Josie's on a vacation far away. And we used to play that in the studio all the time. And so, very nostalgic. Things are so different now. Some things are the exact same and some things are so different. One of the things that's very different is just the business focus. The ship will sink if we don't focus on growing the business. Mm-hmm. Whereas back then it was just a simpler time.
It was so we were always talking hobby. That's what I say. In the very beginning, it was kind of like a convenient hobby. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's
okay. All I have to say.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the end. Mm-hmm. Convenient hobby that you want to grow, that you want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Which requires you to build a business. And so, yeah, meaningful progress toward meaningful goals for a meaningful purpose. But we talked mindset all the time. And I had back then what I refer to now as a super growth mindset. And Kev had way back a super fixed mindset. So, but not during the podcast days. All right, so Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, that you mentioned on the last episode?
No, I don't know. This was maybe last week at some point.
Okay. We talked about my favorite book, Rationality. We talked about Kevin's favorite book, Mindset by Carol Dweck. Since reading that book and since contemplating mindset, and there's another book called Limitless by Jim Quick that talks about mindset method and I forget what the third one is. Method. Mindset, method, and
I have no idea. Motivation.
Meaning. It was another M. I forget. But anyways, mindset was a big, big, big focal point. In the beginning, Alan, we get it. Thank you. Get to the point. I've now come to understand, and since I've reflected on mindset, and now that I've coached so many different types of people, some people have high self-belief, some people have low self-belief, some people have high self-worth, some people have low self-worth, all these different types of people. All of us have, I've broken the mindset thing into more categories. So it's a spectrum now. So imagine 0 to 10. The 0 has what I refer to as a super fixed mindset. It sounds to me like whoever commented on your TikTok was near 0.
Yeah, I would say so. Unfortunately.
Super fixed mindset means you do not believe that you can improve the external world, and you do not believe that you can improve yourself. That's a super fixed mindset. Very pessimistic. Then the next stage, we'll call this 2.5, so 0 to 2.5. 2.5 is a semi-fixed mindset. A semi-fixed mindset is someone who believes they can improve things externally. You can improve your car. You can improve your home. You can renovate your bathroom. You can improve your processes. You can improve at work. But you don't believe in self-improvement yet. You don't believe you can change your level of humility. You don't believe you can change your level of self-belief. You don't believe you can change and improve yourself yet. Okay. 5 is, I think, a growth mindset. Then you've got, and so now your 0 is super fixed, then you've got semi-fixed, then you've got growth. Then you've got like growth plus at 7.5. Okay, so let me define growth. Growth is you believe you can improve yourself and you believe you can improve things externally, but not that much. I would say that's where you were back then. Mm. My future most likely will be a plus 10% of what it is now, and then plus 10% of that, and then plus 10. Okay, awesome. Incremental improvement over time. Great. Now you have growth plus, which is someone who believes not only can I improve myself and others, but I can improve the way I improve others. And I can lead leaders. And I can build something that's meaningful beyond myself. Then you've got what I now refer to as a super growth mindset that I actually think has devastating effects. A super growth mindset is where I was back then. So Kev was at probably 5 with growth. I was at super growth. And super growth is, I believe I can change the world. I believe that I can change everything about myself. I believe that I can mitigate every weakness. I believe I can have strengths without the weakness. I believe. And it's Candyland fairy tale level stuff. Now, I'm not trying to hate on my past self, because truth be told, a lot of what we've achieved is predicated on the fact that obviously we believed in it. And one of the reasons we believed in it is because of my super growth mindset. The super growth mindset is dangerous because it's predicated on a false reality. And I now understand, if you've ever heard someone say, I can do anything I set my mind to, that's a super growth mindset, but it's inaccurate. You cannot win a strongman competition just because you try real hard. You cannot be a billionaire just because you feel like you should be able to. You cannot be an opera singer that starts at 50 and beats the people who started at 5 years old. It's just an inaccurate statement. You're not going to be faster than Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive. And thinking that you can and investing your decades into that endeavor is actually detrimental, because what could you have done with that time that actually was accurate and tangible in the world? And so I'm not making any of these wrong. What I am saying is try to identify which one you're on. So the full 10s are a little bit delusional, and a little bit, because some of it, maybe you could change the world, right? So, I mean, some people have. So I would say you got to assess this for yourself. Then you've got growth plus, which is I can improve myself and others. I can improve processes and others. I can do this. I can build this. I can make this happen. Then you've got growth, which is, I think we could get a little better. We could definitely get a little better. We can get a little better. Awesome. Then there's semi-fixed, which is I can improve the process. I can improve the business. I can improve my car. I can improve my house. But I'm not going to change the world, and I definitely am not going to look in the mirror and improve anything about me. And then super fixed is you're just dead in the water. You kind of can't win with a super fixed mindset. You can't improve yourself or others. You don't believe. It's almost like you believe, well, I got a C+, I'm bad at math. Instead of, hey, you could try for a B.
Next Level Nation, what is happening? If you've thought to yourself, I want to try coaching, but you don't really know where to start, group coaching would be a wonderful place for you. That's really why we created it in the first place. We start a new round every 90 days. So if you're hearing this, go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com, and we have the landing page where you can actually hold your spot right now. Even if there's a group going on right now, you can still lock your spot for the next one. The biggest thing that we've seen is as we get closer and closer to the date, unfortunately, some people end up missing. the group fills up and they can't do it, and then they end up regretting that. So please head over to the website. The link will be in the show notes, and we would love to see you there. Well, I think of it as, we've talked many times about the trials and tribulations of Kevin's job hunt in various times in my life. And one of the reasons I think I jumped from job to job that I didn't like is I was afraid to apply for jobs because I didn't think I'd ever get them. I was afraid to do interviews because I was like, what's the point? What's the point of the interview? I'm not going to get the job.
Yeah.
That became the proof. That's the problem, is it becomes the proof, and then the proof becomes the reality. It's just a self-fulfilling... I know it's not this simple, obviously. It's not as simple as that, but and this wasn't the case for me. This wasn't my upbringing, but say I was raised and my parents said, you can't do anything, Kev. You're not that smart. You're not that talented. That's not the way I was raised. I wasn't raised that way. So a lot of this stuff is from other stuff. But imagine the first time I get a job, I'm probably not going to think I'm worthy of the job, and then that's going to become this cycle that I have forever, and that always becomes the foundation of everything I do. There's always that story. It's always the story in the back of your head. Well, maybe if I get lucky, I'll get the job, or maybe if nobody else applied for it, I'll get the job. That became the internal dialogue for a long time, and I think that's where the lack of self-belief comes in. Now, I think one of the reasons I have more self-belief is just because I have more proof. That's all it is. I saw, maybe you'll know what movie this is from. I don't know. I saw a clip today. It's George Clooney in a movie, and he's talking to someone, and he said, look, I know you're scared, and I know you're scared shitless, but you got to go do the thing, because when you go do the thing, it builds confidence, not the other way around. And the guy he was saying it to looked at him, he said, that's kind of a messed up way for it to work, huh? And he said, yeah, I know, but that's just the way it goes. I don't know what movie that's from, but it was very funny because I think it kind of is, it's true. It's not that person. And again, I'm not hating on this person. I empathize because I know I've been there 1,000%. And I'm not talking about them. I'm just using that as an example for today's episode. But unless by some unique piece of luck, they have a life-altering event. I'm not saying luck, that part, but then they're able to take that as something positive and then they shift their life. They may end up doing the same thing for the rest of their life, and they may end up saying, well, it's not worth me going and getting a degree. It's not worth me doing a side hustle, learning a new skill, networking, finding a mentor. And then you end up stuck. It is this weird thing. It's this very, very strange thing. I needed a mentor, but I didn't think I was worthy of one, and I didn't want to ask because I didn't think they'd say yes. Alan, you didn't need mentors as much as I did, but you went and asked, and you got a bunch of them. Isn't that wild? Isn't it wild how you had an abundance of everything that I needed, and I never would have gotten it most likely because I always thought, well, nobody's going to want to mentor me. I didn't go to college. I'm not that smart. Our past is this weird thing that just perpetuates our future if we don't change up the proof, but that's really challenging to do.
What a philosophical conversation about, would you rather be delusional and then be constantly up against that delusion, realizing that you shot a lot of shots and got pretty far, but not as far as you thought? Or would you rather just be correct and not shoot?
I think it's would you rather be delusional or correct? Because I was delusional. That person's most likely delusionally under.
Yeah,
they're not accurate.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Right?
Great point.
So would you rather be delusional or accurate?
This is why I believe so much in statistics. I really want this to land hopefully in a new way right now. I will never forget this as long as I live. It was summer way back. What was I, 22? I think I was 22. And there was this woman who was dating best friends with my girlfriend. And so I was dating her, and it was her best friend, and she would come party with us, and we had a blast. And I forget what the hell was her name. Whoa. She was applying to jobs all summer. And I was applying to jobs. This is when I had first come back from LA, and I applied to a bunch of jobs. And this is when I first started the whole, Sensata Technologies. I job hopped a bunch through corporate. This was like the beginning-ish of my corporate climb. So from 21 to basically 26, that sort of space. And I remember this. We were at a bonfire, and she's like, I applied to jobs all summer, and I just haven't gotten any. There's no jobs. And this is back before I knew anything, so I was probably unintelligently ignorant when it comes to her lack of belief. And I said, well, how many jobs did you apply to? And she said, oh, it's been at least 3 or 4. And I was like, oh my God. And now, I would handle this differently now. I said, her name's Kerry, now I found it. I said, Kerry, I applied to like 150. Like, of course I got one of them.
Yeah.
Dude, she literally said verbatim, I've been applying to jobs all summer. And I had applied to like 50 jobs a day at one point. And I got a job at Sensata Technologies, and then I worked there, and then I got a job at Cognex. And I remember having that thought of, Kerry, I probably said this to her because I didn't realize that no one cares. But I probably said, Kerry, you're not going to get a job if you only shot your shot 4 times. That's like taking 4 half-court shots, hoping one of them is going to go in. When you're not even good at basketball.
There's a reason they give you 50 thou if they pull you out of the crowd and you make it, son. Because it's that one in a million shot.
I wonder sometimes. Kev reached out to Evan Carmichael and said, hey, how do you get more speeches? He's one of the most prolific speakers really in the world, honestly, at this point. Yeah, he's probably one of the best, highest paid speakers in the world. Cool. All right, so Kevin said, how do we get more speeches? He said 100 times your effort. So however many messages you're sending, which is 0, do 100x that. So Evan, we're sending 0 still. No, I'm kidding. But I agree with him. It's just apply to more jobs. Because statistics show that you're going to miss the majority of the time. And that's why I think baseball is actually a good metaphor, even though I think it's the most boring game in the world.
It is very boring.
It's a really good metaphor because even the Hall of Fame hitters only hit, a 40%?
I mean, the best of all time is, 40%.
What
Most
a great
other
metaphor.
people are 30 to 34% is like world class.
World class. So if you get 34% on base, you're world class?
I wouldn't say on base because there's like walks and errors and stuff like that. But
right.
Yeah, if your batting average is 34%, if you're hitting the ball and getting on base that way 34% of the time, you're doing really well, yeah.
Okay. I think that's a great metaphor. So I applied to, let's say, 200 jobs, and I got, 20 callbacks, and I did 10 interviews, and then I got 3 of those jobs. And one of them is an offer I actually want to take. Versus Kerry, who applied to 4 and got no callbacks, and then told herself the story that there's no jobs.
I understand.
I think in many regards, that's the difference between success and failure right there, at least long term.
I would agree. So I'm looking for a therapist. And again, I'm Kerry in this situation. I messaged like 4, but it's not like I expected all of them to reach out, but one of them reached out to me today. I was like,
nice.
All right, cool.
But prior to her reaching out, what did you think was going to happen?
I thought maybe one would get back. Maybe.
What would old Kev have done?
Oh, he would assumed I'm broken. They probably didn't like my message that I sent them. It was more this time about just lack of time. It's like, I'll send 4 and see what happens. If nothing happens, I'll send another 4, and then I'll send 10. It's just a timing issue more than anything. But
can you explain how different that is to old Kevin? Like, that mentality is exactly how success works.
Yeah, I don't know, because it's like the bumper sticker stuff. I can't even say it because I know it wouldn't resonate with me. You're most likely going to sift through losses to eventually find wins. It's not going to be the other way around. You're not going to have 9 wins and 1 loss. You're most likely going to have 9 losses and 1 win. But the win's going to make up for all the losses. Almost every time. Because the losses are usually very small. It's just a no. As opposed to you dying.
Yeah, it might even be a no thank you.
Might be a no thank you. And I've gotten a lot of those recently, and it's like, understandable. You and I were talking the other day. There was somebody that you and I know, and I thought this person might end up a client. They're just a really good person, a really good human. And you said, whatever happened with that person? And I said, they weren't interested. They wanted to invest their...
Yeah. I thought that was high probability, yeah.
Same. They wanted to invest their money elsewhere. And that was it. It's like, no worries. Cool. I pray for... I don't pray for you. I hope you crush it. I hope you're successful. I still love you. I'll still love your content. I'm more sad than anything because I really like the person, but I'm not sad for me.
Last thing, I know we got to jump.
Yeah, quickly.
There's a concept in psychology called personalization. And in relationship talks events, Emilia brings up a lot of really cool psychological concepts that help people in relationships. And I basically learn it and present it as a strong speaker, but a lot of this is new to me.
Yeah, it's the story of my life for the last years.
Personalization, the definition, I wish I had it in front of me, is if Kev reached out to that person and said, hey, do you want to work with us? And then that person said, no, I'd really rather invest my money elsewhere. Someone who has high level of personalization would then personalize that as our service or our product sucks.
Yep.
Now, there's a benefit to that. If your reaction to that is, hey, man, Alan, we got to get a better offer. We got to make a better offer. We got to find a way to lower the price. We got to find a way to improve the product. We got to find a way to add more value. We got to do better marketing strategy, whatever. That's great. But if you personalize it and allow that to leak into your identity, like I'm a sucky salesperson, or it's never going to work out for me, or they didn't like me, then that's dangerous if it stops you from shooting your next shot. If it stops you from getting up to bat again.
Yep.
If you're going to get up to bat again, awesome. Personalize it, make your product better, make your service better, make your sales presentation better, get better. I'm with it. Don't personalize it if it's going to stop you from getting back to bat, because that's a good way to fail forever. If you're going for grand slams, you're in trouble. You might end up hitting a grand slam, but you can't go for a grand slam, especially not in the beginning. And that's like trying to get a video to go viral. We've got 1,700 and something, and we still haven't. So just we're shooting our shots. Maybe one day it happens, but that's not why we're playing. And I think that that's a good metaphor.
Well, if we talked about something more sexy, maybe if we got really jacked and then we did this podcast without our shirts on, that would help. Yeah, that might
give it a shot.
Whatever, maybe that would be it, or maybe.
How many years do you need to get more jacked?
I would say within the calendar year will be okay, but gotta really, really stick with it for the next 5 months. We're gonna talk a little bit about something related to what we talked about tomorrow, based on what Alan just said. If you are focused on getting better every single day, a little bit, it adds up. Little by little, we improve. Make sure you are subscribed to this podcast, wherever you are watching and or listening. We appreciate it, and it helps us grow. And when we grow, we can help more people. So if you want to help us help more people, amazing. Hit the subscribe button. The algorithm really likes it, so that would very much help us out. Alan, what do you have?
What do I have?
What do you have?
We have a book club every Saturday. We have a monthly meetup every month. We have a Dreamliner journal. Go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com. There's so much more to NLU than most listeners, particularly new listeners, know. Nextleveluniverse.com, spelled just like it sounds. We've got group coaching. Everything is there. Check it out. Check out the landing page. If you have any questions, email us.
As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Keep shooting shots. Next Level Nation.